Hey everybody, guess who just got 4 misdemeanors? This guy did. So I'm going to explain what's going on, what the charges were, and where we're going from here. So I've got a German Shepherd, and she loves to escape. We have an invisible fence, we have an electric fence, we have tried everything, and she just jumps everything. She will deal with the shock. So she gets out, goes to a neighbor's house. Neighbor, which is like a cokehead, meth head kind of guy, decides he's going to call the police. Police show up. They get her. They come to my door, knock, say, "Hey, your dog's out." I whistle. She comes right back in the fence. So the officer said, "We're going to have an animal control officer come by and just do a quick follow-up with you." I said, "Oh, okay, no problem. Not a big deal." Well, fast forward to the 30th of December. Animal control knocks on my door and says, "We have a report that you had your dog out." And I said, "That is the accusation." She said, "Do you have this dog?" And I said, "Yes, I do have that dog." She said, "Well, I'm going to need your vaccine reports for your dog." And I think she noticed that I had another dog in the house or something like that. She said, "Do you have more dogs?" And I said, "I'm not going to answer that question." And she said, "Okay, you have more dogs." And I said, "Well, I didn't say that. I didn't say I had more dogs." She said, "Well, you have more dogs." And I said, "Okay, whatever you say, whatever you say." So she said, "I need vaccination reports for both your dogs." And I said, "Is that required by law that I give it to you, or are you just wanting it? Kind of let me know what's going on here." And she said, "It is required by law. You've got to provide these to me if I ask for them." I said, "Okay, well, give me just a moment. Let me look up that law. I'll get right back with you. If I am required to do that, I have no problem with it. I'll give them to you." So I go inside and I start researching real quick. I couldn't find it, so I decided to go back out and ask. So I go out there and I said, "Hey, do you happen to know what the city ordinance is?" And she said, "Yes, it's 4.61. So I go back in and I'm looking and I just can't find the page that has the ordinances. So I go back out after about 2 or 3 minutes and I say, "Hey, look, I don't know where this is. I can't find it. I want to do some research on it before I do anything. I just have a habit of not giving people information unless I have to, unless it's required." I said, "What will you do if I can't give this to you?" And she said, "I will write you a citation." I said, "Okay, go ahead and write me a citation, and I'll show the judge this if I'm required to. I'll do some research on it." So she did. So she started to write one and said, "I need to see your ID." And I said, "Well, I don't have my ID, but I can give you my name, my date of birth, and my social." She's at my house, so she's got my address. She said, "No, I need your ID. I need your driver's license." I said, "Well, what would you do if I didn't have a driver's license?" And she said, "I need your driver's license." So I said, "Well, I can't give it to you." She said, "Well, I'm going to have to call the police, and they're going to come here and get it." And I said, "Well, go ahead, call the police, and I'll deal with them." Police show up. At this point, I started recording, but unfortunately, that video has been corrupted. I'm not sure why, but I don't have it anymore. So police show up and they say, "We need your ID." And I said, "I'm sorry, I don't have my ID. I can give you my name, date of birth, social, and you have my address because you're here at my house." They said, "We have to have your ID." And I said, "Well, what would you do if I was out walking on the street and didn't have my ID?" And they said, "We would require that you give us your social security card or your birth certificate." And I laughed and I was like, "You got to be kidding me. What would you do if I was out walking on the street, had no identification physical copies on me, if I didn't have my birth certificate, if I didn't have my social security card, didn't have my driver's license, didn't even have a debit card? What would you do then?" And he said, "I would arrest you and hold you until I could prove who you are." And I said, "Well, no, sir, you wouldn't do that. You would ask for my name, my date of birth, my social, and my address, maybe." He said, "Well, go ahead and go get me those things." And I said, "Do you think that I have a business card with all that information on it that I just carry around?" And he didn't respond. I said, "Well, I can't give you that. I can't go get that information for you, but I got it in my noggin. I can give it to you." So he said, "Okay, go ahead and give it to me then." I started giving him that information. She wrote me the citations and left. I sat and talked with the officers for a minute and explained, that I was an auditor and why I do what I do. I think it's a good idea to let them know that we're not out there to bash them. We are there to show them that we have rights, that we will not stand for our rights to be violated, and it's a protection to keep us from being charged with things that we are unaware of. So she writes me 4 citations, or what I believe are like traffic citations, where you go in, you tell the judge, hey, I didn't know. He says, okay, you got 30 days, fix it, come back, show me. So that's what I was expecting. What I didn't know is these were misdemeanor charges, all 4 separate misdemeanor charges. So I start doing a little bit of research, and I see that she has charged me with not having a dog license. The sheet said dog tags, but the law itself, when I read it, said license. So I get on and start doing some research to find out if I'm required to have those things. And I find the Service Member Civil Relief Act, or the SCRA for short. The SCRA covers so many things. It's for active duty military or their spouses and dependents. It basically covers everything from if you're renting and you get moved to another duty station, being able to get out of that contract with no fees associated, all the way to not getting taxed on your vehicles. That for personal property, it covers the rest of personal property. So I get on there and I'm looking and I'm reading and I'm like, okay, well, this is saying that I'm not required to pay taxes on personal property, except for in my home state of record, which is Texas. So I go into court and I say, here's my vaccine report to the judge first. And the judge says, he looks at it. It's a piece of paper that says when my vaccines are due for my dogs. It also has the dog's names, their identification number for the vet, my name, my identification number for the vet, and my phone number. Has all that information on there. The judge has told me to give it to the animal control officer. The animal control officer said, well, this doesn't look right. And so the judge said, okay, I'm going to throw that out as evidence. It's not evidence. You don't have evidence. You're guilty of these things. So I go on to the other 2 citations, which are for the license. I misunderstood it and did research on the tax. I show him the SCRA and I say, hey, look, if you look in Virginia Code 3.2-6585, the first line states, all dogs and cats are deemed personal property. Now, if you look in the SCRA, you'll see, and I'm not going to dig it up right now, but because it isn't relevant. But I read a part on not paying property taxes outside of your home state of record. He said this is not a property tax, it is a license on personal property. So he went ahead and convicted me on all 4. I go into the clerk's office, and that is when I found out that these are misdemeanor charges. After I was done with court, after I was done with my trial, I went ahead and filed for appeal, started doing more research, and I found this inside this SCRA in a different section, and I'm going to read it to you so that you guys can understand too. The SCRA says, the personal property of a service member or spouse of service member shall not be deemed to be located or present in or to have situs for taxation in the tax jurisdiction in which the service member is serving in compliance with military orders. So we've deemed that personal property and dogs are the same thing. Dogs are personal property. Personal property includes dogs. So we can take that out and we can put dog in there. Service member or spouse service member or dependent, that can also be taken out and we can put my name in there, Justin. Tax jurisdiction in which the service member is serving in. Portsmouth is included in that, so we can take that out and just put Portsmouth. So now the SCRA reads, the dog of Justin is not to be deemed to be located or present in or to have situs for taxation in the city of Portsmouth. The ordinance that I was charged with, which is Portsmouth City Ordinance 4.61, reads, "It shall be unlawful for any person to own a dog 4 months of age or older in the city unless such dog is licensed under this chapter." It's important to note that it says in the city. So if you are in, say, Chesapeake, our neighboring city, you can't be charged in Portsmouth. So the SCRA says that my dogs are not considered to be located or present in the city or state, the city of Portsmouth or state of Virginia, which means I have not violated this law. So that being said, I'm going to go in and I am going to argue this point in circuit court. Another huge thing to note about Virginia. Virginia does not give you a public defender for any charge that does not carry a jail sentence. These misdemeanors do not carry a jail sentence, which means I do not have the right to I don't have the right to a public defender paid by the city. So I have to hire my own attorney. I don't have the money to do that, so I am representing myself. To hire an attorney for circuit court, which is a step after general court, once you've appealed, you go to circuit court, it costs in between $10,000 and $25,000. Every time the attorney makes a second appearance, for whatever reason, they add on $1, $3, $5, whatever $1,000, whatever they deem in the contract. So that number can jump up very, very quickly. So, what I have done so far, I have FOIA requested that officers, I'll read it to you. I've got the FOIA request right here. Cover up my personal information, but everything else I'm going to show you guys. So this is the Police Department of Portsmouth FOIA request dated the 9th of January, which is the day after my conviction, which was the 8th of January. And it reads, "The records requested are all records in regard to Animal Control Officer K. Ritchie, badge number 2448. All notes in regard to the 30th day of December 2019 stop at the address above. All government and personal phone records on that day while on duty, wages and benefits paid in the year of 2019, all complaints filed from beginning of hire, all parking addresses in the city of city vehicles used by the Animal Control Officer with badge number 2448, all training given to officer listed above, and all disciplinary actions taken on this officer." So I'm getting all her information. I'm going to go ahead and post it for you guys as soon as I get it. Also, once, I don't know if so my court date for this, for circuit court, is February 21st at 10 a.m. That's for Eastern Standard Time for all y'all viewers that are outside of Eastern Standard Time. So my court date, 21st of February at 10 a.m. Once I get done with that, I'm going on a little vacay to Texas, so I won't be able to do anything immediately after, but I'll try to update you guys as soon as possible. I should be able to get it done before I go, but I may not. But what I am going to do is when I get back from vacation, I am going to do a First Amendment audit on the animal control shelter. I'm going to do 2 ways of First Amendment audits. First, I'm going to voice my opinion with a sign. Whatever's on my sign is going to represent the way that I feel. Haven't decided what I'm going to put on it yet, but I want them to know how I feel, as it is my right to do so. And I'm going to video record them for possible publication. So those are the 2 ways that I'm going to be doing my First Amendment right. I haven't decided yet whether I'm going to carry. I normally carry everywhere, but most of the time I try not to carry. When I'm doing First Amendment audits, I like to do those audits separately. So just to recap, 4 misdemeanor charges. I was convicted because I did not do the due diligence to research what the law really says. I'm going back in now that I'm educated, and I should be found not guilty. The reason that I'm doing this video is because of the way that the law is here. The law requires you to pay money to get a license to own a dog. And I want to stress that. I want to stress the fact that the government gets to dictate what pet you have. They get to take your money to control what dog you have, how many dogs you have, and how long you can have those dogs. We need to go to more town hall meetings and remove these thieving ordinances. This is also a state law. So the state needs to change for the ordinance to change. The cities don't have to follow it, but if we get the state law changed, it'll cut them all off. And I think this needs to be done. If you guys have any questions on the officers, if you want me to FOIA more information, just let me know what that is. I'm happy to do any of it. I am going to post all of the FOIA information once I get it, and we'll go over it together as well. If you guys have any questions on court, on if you're a service member out there and you want more information on the SCRA, shoot me an email. I'm going to put my email down in there. It's newsnownorfolk@gmail.com. If you guys want anything at all, feel free to go ahead and comment below. I'll try to get to you as soon as I can. Also, make sure to like and subscribe, guys. Subscribing is great, but hitting that notification bell is what makes the difference. You guys will get notified whenever I post any videos, and you'll be able to be the first ones to see what happens on this FOIA request and on the case when I go to circuit court. So thanks, guys, for watching. Really appreciate it. Thanks for supporting me out there, and hope to see you again soon.